JR, what's the difference between CMH and CMHA?
I'm not sure, but I think it's kind of like the Mounties and the Toronto Police. Like one's all over Canada, one's just in Toronto where it matters. I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Oh my gosh.
I got that
Dish.
dish. Dish. Dish. Got that dish. That dish.
Hey y'all, it's Onika.
And JR.
And you are dishing with Dainty Dish. How you doing today, JR?
I am doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day, and yeah, I feel happy. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I almost wet myself.
You almost wet yourself?
Yeah, I almost wet myself on the way here. I had to go to the Best Buy bathroom. It wasn't a fun experience. It wasn't a nice bathroom. But yeah, I really had to pee. But that's basically how I'm doing today. I'm relieved, and I'm excited because we have a guest on the show. Rachel, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
How are you today?
I am good. The weather is getting warmer, so it's nicer out.
Perfect. And did you want to give us the true answer between CAMH and CMHA, seeing as that is where you work?
Yes, definitely. So the main difference, well, first, the CMHA stands for Canadian Mental Health Association. CAMH stands for the Center of Addiction and Mental Health, so that's the first difference. And then CAMH is Toronto-based, so they're located in Toronto, and they are hospital psychiatric-based supports, so people go there to receive services. CMHA is nationwide, and we're a community-based agency. So we provide community supports all over Canada. We have over 330 branches across the country, and we go into the community and provide support to people who are struggling with their mental health. And specifically, I work at the Toronto branch.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. But we are going to get to CMHA in a little while. I wanted to start off by talking about some lived experience that you have.
Yeah.
So let us tell that tale.
Of course.
We always start with, what was it like growing up? What was that like for you?
Yeah. So I had a very good childhood. There was nothing wrong in my life. I have great parents, great siblings, great friends. I went to school. I had a great social life. I was very fortunate growing up, but when I was about 15 years old, I can't even remember like the distinct point where we were kind of like, okay, you need to go see someone or you need to start seeing somebody. But the only image in my head was that I was just crying all the time and I was sleeping all the time. That's all I was doing. I'd go to school, I'd come home at 4 o'clock and I'd go to bed. I'd wake up at 9 o'clock, have something to eat, go back to bed. Next day, go to school, same thing, repeat. And I was just down all the time. And, that's, I think my parents had a hard time too, because they were kind of like, what's, normal teenage feelings and what's, labeled as a mental illness. So I think it took actually a few years for even my parents to realize like, okay, this is more than just, regular teenage drama and not feeling good and, regular teenage hormones and all that kind of stuff. And it took, I think because that process took so long to like get, my family on board to be like, this is not normal. It's not normal to feel this way and to have these emotions and these feelings, that further negatively impacted my mental health because it was like I wasn't getting the support that I needed. At the time, I didn't realize any of that. I just knew that I was upset and down, and that was all I was thinking about. Now I can look back and I see what kind of prolonged me getting the proper supports I needed, but at the time I couldn't get the proper supports that I needed.
Okay. So then what happened? You saw someone.
Yeah, so I started seeing someone, and I think even they thought that I didn't have anything wrong with me because they were only a therapist or a psychologist, but they didn't prescribe medication. And it wasn't until, after I was seeing them for a while, they finally referred me to a psychiatrist to get medication. And I remember I went to the psychiatrist, and it was kind of like they just had, she physically gave me a sheet and said, fill out the sheet, and it was like, how are you feeling today on a scale of like 1 to 10? What's your mood?
I know the sheet.
Yeah, and it was just like, how many days a week do you feel this way? Have you ever had any suicidal thoughts? How often do you have those thoughts? And it was literally like a box checklist. I checked it all off, handed it to her, and then she gave me medication. What she had put me on was a very strong medication, and like one of the main side effects is like it's going to cause you to be very drowsy and like you'll sleep a lot. And in my head I'm thinking, well, I already sleep a lot. And I remember the first night I was sitting at my dining room table and I took the medication, and within like 3 minutes I was like passed out on my dining room table. Like it was such a strong medication, and that didn't help me because all I was doing with that medication was like it kind of normalized everything. Like I wasn't feeling as depressed, but I had no energy for anything. I actually, if anything, I was skipping more school because I was so tired. Because it was just literally putting me to sleep. I did not love the person I was seeing. And at the time I was only like 16, 17 years old. I actually even forget how I got there. I think it was like a doctor referral or something. But at the time, like I did have like, the classic high school drama with friends and boys and all that kind of stuff. And I felt that it did help me to a certain extent with those issues. But after those issues were kind of resolved, it was like, well, I still feel depressed. I still feel anxious. So I took that as this is not helping. I'm done. And I stopped going to therapy. I actually found that I was coming out by the end of it like angry and upset every time I went to therapy, because it was like, these issues are resolved, but I'm still feeling this way. This isn't helping. You're getting paid a lot of money here to like help me, and I'm coming out like my mom would be like, how was therapy? And I'd just start crying, or I'd get angry, like I'd yell at my parents. I'd say like, stop asking me, and it's like I didn't want to talk about it. And I kind of that's when I really just completely shut off. And I did not go back and see someone for a few years, and I kind of just was in this limbo state. I was on some other medication, and everything was just neutral. Like I didn't have any feeling of excitement or like happiness. I didn't look forward to anything. And for years, that's just how I always felt. And I almost thought that was normal. Like that's how you do feel, It's, I'd see like my friends get excited, to go on a trip or their birthday, or they haven't seen someone in a really long time. And then I'd be put in those situations and I was just like, I don't feel anything. Like, it's just like, it's cool. Like, great, I'm going away, or great, I haven't seen someone I've seen in a while. But I didn't have those happy and excited feelings. And that's kind of when I started to realize maybe this isn't normal. And I'd probably say about like first year university, seeing everyone go out to Frosh Week and partying and all this kind of stuff and meeting new people. Like I didn't care to meet new people. I didn't care to go out. And you could say like, oh, you're just a very introverted person. But there's a whole, you really have to distinguish what's normal and what's not normal. And I think because like through high school and university, everything is so new, and your new experiences and all that kind of stuff, it's really hard to distinguish what's normal and what's not normal because it's all new. So my friend actually, which was very sweet of her, I remember like one day I got a phone call and they were like, hi, we're calling, we got your letter that you're interested in like our mental health services. And I remember being like, I've never heard of this place, or it's called Mind Health Toronto, and I was like, I've never heard of this place. And my friend was like, I found it seems really great, and they referred me to see a psychologist there, and I've been with her ever since, and she's like completely changed my life. Granted, and then I actually went to my doctor who helped me figure out medication versus a psychiatrist, so I was able to test out a few medications, and even I was on one, and for a year, I was like, I felt great, the best I've ever been. It did have some like negative side effects, which is why I had to switch off of it. And now I'm on a new medication, and I can definitely say this is the best I've ever felt. But now being on this medication and having a good therapist, I can really look back and see like where everything kind of went wrong. And I think the hardest thing for me is that I do feel like 7 years of my life, went to waste. I look back and it's like I didn't engage in activities. I didn't engage in going out with friends. Like when we had like family get-togethers, I was just like, ugh, when is this going to be over? Like I feel like I missed out on so much. And I think like right now that's the hardest thing for me to deal with is that, you can't get time back. You can't get those experiences back. You can't get those feelings back. I just felt like I was there and that was it. Like I was physically there, but I wasn't mentally there. And so now when I look back, I kind of just think, I look back and I think, what are the things I could have changed? And I think my biggest thing that I would have changed is I would have asked for the proper supports. Like I would have, now working at CMHA, they have a family outreach and response program, and the program is for people caring for a loved one who has a mental illness.
Okay.
And, if I knew about that program, I would have made my parents go to that program so they could learn how to deal with me, because I think that was hard for them too. They didn't know what to do. This was all new territory for them too. Like again, they didn't know what was normal teenage hormones and what was labeled as a mental illness. They couldn't distinct what was normal and what was not normal. So I think that's the biggest thing I would have done is look, my parents are going to listen to this later and be like, you're making us sound awful, but like no, they're great. They're great parents and they were really supportive. I just think from their perspective it was new to them. They had never dealt with it before, and it's hard for a parent. Like you don't want your child in pain, but you also don't want to throw your child into like treatments and all this kind of stuff if in the end it really is just regular teenage, yeah. And like people throw around the word like depressed and anxious like it's nothing these days. Like I find like people are like, oh my god, I'm so anxious for the test, but it's like anxiety is a real thing. It's a real illness. And anxious, or it's not the right word, like being nervous for a test and having butterflies in your stomach, like that's a normal way. But like people who have anxiety, like they physically sometimes can't function before a test because they have serious anxiety. So to me, like putting the label on it, like at the end of the day, I suffered from depression, I suffered from anxiety. I don't feel those feelings currently, and I'm very grateful for that. It's still new to me. Like I do, as cheesy as it sounds, like I really do feel like I'm a new person. Like I'm still learning things about myself. Like to like see what I get excited for and what I actually get upset over, and what I feel happy about. So it's all new to me still. So growing up, it was hard because it was just it was all these negative feelings and negative events to me. And now I'm just I look back and I'm kind of just seeing, again, what was normal and what was not normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had said to us that your mental health journey had led you to CMHA.
Yeah.
Just explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so originally I loved entertainment. Like I loved the whole entertainment industry. It was really interesting to me and intriguing. So that's actually why I went to school for media studies and communication, because I was like, oh, one day, I'll go to LA and I'll work with celebrities, and that's what I wanted to do. I don't know why I actually wanted to do it. I just knew that I loved like celebrity culture. And I had an internship with a movie distributor, and that led to a job. And I was working with celebrities. I worked at TIFF and all these festivals and producers and movies and all that kind of whole world. And it's not as glamorous as you think.
I'm gonna ask you who you met later.
Yeah,
who you met.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as you think. It's it was boring actually. It was just like you would make sure someone got to the airport okay and got to their interview okay. You'd go for the interview, you'd listen to them, you'd sit back and like make sure their car was there to pick them up, like all that kind of stuff. Like yes, there are some great people like the directors and producers to talk to, because it was their films and like it was their baby, and they were the ones who were really excited. But the actual like actors and actresses, like it's not as glamorous as you think. So at one point I was like, you know what, I'm just like not enjoying this, and I've learned all I could learn at this job. And I left that job, but I had actually gotten offered another job. I worked in retail throughout university, and there was just like the talks of, they had a position there that I could have possibly done, and it was a large sum of money, and my parents were like, why are you not taking this job? Like, you can go move out, you can buy a place, you can do whatever you want, you go on these trips, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, it's not what I want to do. It has nothing with what I want to do. And my parents were like, it's going to open doors for you. I was like, what doors is it opening? Because I don't care to sit and, do that job just for the money. And so I took a year off. I didn't work. And one day I was in therapy, and she was like, what do you like to do? I was like, I don't know what I like to do, because I don't know what I like and what I don't like and all that kind of stuff.
I get that.
I was like, I'm still learning. But, the one thing that I've always loved is I love advocating for people and what they want to do. And like at the end of the day, I like hearing people's stories and what kind of brought them. I like to call it like your journey to happiness. Everyone has their own journey to get to a place where they're happy. And at that point, I was just kind of like, that's mental health and well-being. But I was like, well, I don't have a psych degree. Like, there's nothing I can do in mental health. And one night, I just happened to be at a family dinner, and the executive director from CMHA happened to be there, and he told me that their communications person was retiring, and they would have a job opening. And he said, the most I can do is pass on your resume, and, that's it. And after a few months, I heard back and I got the job. And to be honest, at first, I didn't think this is what I really wanted to do, because as much as I like communications, and like I had my personal mental health struggles, like it still hadn't clicked yet. Like, what do I really want to do? Like, what do I really love? And I got into this job, and to be honest, I actually didn't like it at first. Because it's more of a desk job, and I hate sitting all day, and that was one thing I knew, like, I don't want to have a desk job. But then when I really learned more about the organization and that they go out into the community and they work with people, I started to go out in the community to see what was going on. Like, at one of the first events I went to is this client barbecue, where the organization held a barbecue literally for its clients, and there was games and food, and it was outdoors. It was at a great park, and I'm just like looking at everyone and seeing them so happy, and the fact that they're the organization was even putting on a barbecue for them, like, I just thought that was amazing, and it was a chance for everyone to like interact with each other. All the staff were there, like, it was great. And so I started to really talk to people and hear their stories, and hear literally their journey to happiness and like their recovery, and it really started to inspire me. So I kind of have taken this communications role, and I've there's more to communicate versus just what the organization does, but like who the organization helps and what their stories are. So it was. I never thought I'd kind of be in this position. It wasn't something that I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to do communications and mental health. Like, it was nothing of the sort. Like, it just so happened. And now I absolutely love it. And, every single day there's something new to learn. New people every day, new people to work with, new stories, new projects, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot to advocate for, and even like working with social media and seeing people's responses just to a positive quote, and they're like, this really helped cheer me up today. I wasn't having a good day. Like, we get those kind of messages, and just to like know that me tweeting out a positive quote helped one person, like, to me that's so beneficial, and it's rewarding. And I really do believe that you have to be in a job not only that you love, but when it's rewarding and you have these positive experiences with other people, like, it just makes your day, and it just makes your job that much better. So that's how I came to this position. Okay. So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the organization.
Yeah. So again, it's the Canadian Mental Health Association. So it has been around since 1918. So for over a century now. And basically, it started off as, it was actually called the Canadian National Committee for Mental Hygiene. That's what it was originally called. And today, And it started off as just one organization, and throughout the past century, it has now spread nationwide. There's over 330 branches across Canada, and each branch provides community support to people. We don't all have the same programs depending on the size of our organization, but specifically at CMHA Toronto, our goal is to help people live in the community in clean, safe, affordable housing, and to provide either paid employment or volunteer activities, and help them belong in the community as engaged, valued, and contributing members. So that's kind of like our overarching goal, and so throughout all our services, that's the end goal. We want them to feel valued in the community. We want them to be engaged in the community. And you can't get that you can, but when you're in a hospital, like, you can't get those community supports. So again, we offer a variety of programs in the community, but then we also offer like social support programs. So, we have 2 programs, Roots and Pathways. It's like a drop-in center, so people who are struggling with mental health, they can just drop in, and each social resource center has programs for them. There's even it's called the Multicultural Women's Wellness Groups. So basically, there's one, it's called the Let's Discuss It group within it, and it's, Italian senior women who had mental health issues, and they get together every Wednesday morning, and they sing, they dance, they knit. Yeah, so they have those like little programs that, you wouldn't even think of, and we have educational programs. So we have like something called the Opening Doors Project. So it's for Syrian refugees, because a lot of newcomers who come to Canada face a lot of mental health struggles. So the program is specific for them to, they deliver workshops and all that kind of stuff in newcomer communities and help them become engaged, contributing members in our society. And then we also, we offer a lot of programs in partnership with other organizations. We have one with the Children's Aid Society of Toronto. We have this actually great one. It's called Strengthening Communities in Scarborough. It's located at a residence, so all the people who live in the residence, the program is to support them. So, they have like daily activities. We have an office like in the building, and it helps people. All those people, have come from either homelessness or mental health struggles, and our staff help them at the building in their day-to-day lives. So there's a lot of great little services that, people don't usually think of when they think of mental health, because a lot of people think mental health, okay, here's a psychiatrist and here's a therapist, so you got your medication, you have someone to listen, and like that's your fix. It's such a...
that's what I would think.
Yeah, like that's just like the stigma around it. Like that's what people think, like, you're struggling with your mental health, like those are the 2 things you need. But at the end of the day, people need a community, and they need... they need people to listen. They need people to help them in their day-to-day lives. And there's everyone, when, for example, like, not to compare it, but like when someone's diagnosed with cancer, there's, different types of cancer. There's different stages. It's the same thing with, mental illness. You can't just say, you have depression and you have depression, so like you guys get the same treatment. Everyone needs a different treatment, and you need more than 2 programs to help these individuals. So that's what I love about the organization, that it's in the community. People go to people's homes. People can also still come to our offices, whatever they're more comfortable with. And depending on what they need, we have, the services available. And if we don't provide that specific service, what I love about the organization is they created this resource guide. And it's kind of categorized. So, if you're dealing with abuse, if you're dealing with an eating disorder, and we still make sure you get the supports you need if at another organization, if we can't, if we don't provide those supports. So that's something that I love, because sometimes, people will call somewhere and they'll say, oh, we don't offer these services, bye. And that's what they get, but these people are reaching out for help, and it's a huge step to even reach out for help. Like, it takes a lot of, someone
courage.
Courage, and someone who's struggling, sometimes just the energy and effort to actually pick up a phone, like, and dial a number, like, that's actually a lot of work for someone who's not in a good state, and people don't realize that. So that's the one thing I love about our organization. We have a great information and decision support team who will take all those referrals and take questions from the community. And even if you're not specifically struggling, but if a friend or family member is calling on behalf of someone who is struggling, we help them get the supports they need to be able to help them. So that's what I really love about the organization. We really aim to help everybody we can in the Toronto area, and it's very, very community-based and focused.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the fundraising initiatives.
Yeah,
at
I have
CMHA.
lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots. Tell us about what is CMHA doing and how can we get
Yeah,
involved?
for sure. So actually, we have quite a small fundraising department, even though we're a big organization. So the one main event that we personally do is Ride, Don't Hide. Actually, a majority of branches do it across Canada. And it's usually, for us, it's in June, and I think for most branches, it's in June as well. And people sign up to ride for mental health and raise funds for mental health. So that's like the one thing we do. But we actually have so many people who do community events on behalf of us, and we go out to support them and help them with their community event. And there's so many. That's kind of like our main focus in terms of fundraising, like because there's so many people who want to make their events bigger, the next year and that kind of stuff. So we really help to engage them. One of our like long-term ones, it's called Let the Elephants Dance. It was created by Michelle Crossman in honor of her cousin who passed away. She was struggling with her mental health. And she's a dancer, and elephants were her favorite animal. And Michelle is a dancer and choreographer. And she created this gala, and she basically, choreographed these dances that kind of represented mental health or different topics of mental health, and put on this gala, and she donated the funds to CMHA Toronto and Kids Help Phone. And it's become such like a big thing that now there's a raffle there and prizes and foods and drinks. Like every year it just gets bigger and bigger. And I was there this year. The dancing is incredible. So we go out and we support those events. One other one that really actually was very, very touching. This girl, Sammy, she had passed away due to her mental health issues, and she was a cheerleader. And her friend Sophie, I think everyone in like the cheerleading community was very surprised of her passing. No one knew she was dealing with her mental health. So I don't know if you know anything about cheerleading, but so I actually used to be a cheerleader when I was younger.
I was on the Spirit Squad.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. We were in Catholic school. So
Oh, amazing!
Spirit Squad.
Flyers and tumblers. That's all I know.
That's all you need to know. So, anyways, at competitions, each team has their coordinated outfits in their colors, and they always usually have a bow, and the bow but matches their uniform. And this girl, Sophie, she took Sammy's favorite color, which was blue, and attached these angel wings to the ribbon, and she sold them at like nationals, which is like the biggest competition of the year. And so all these teams replaced their bow with what they called the Sammy bow. And yeah, she raised so much money, and her whole team did it, and she there's a fund for her. It was called the Sammy Bensky Memorial Fund, and it's in partnership with CMHA Toronto, and she donated the funds there. And that fund basically provides education in high schools about mental health. And we supported that event again, and it was just like such an incredible, touching event. And even one we did recently, this guy Jonathan, he realized mental health was just like a prominent issue in the community, and he's a hairdresser. So he started this event called Cuts for Charity, and he basically took one day. There was a bunch of barbers, and they cut people's hair for 5 hours, and they raised all these funds and donated it to us. And we actually found out through this event through social media because they had tagged us, so we didn't get to actually go to the event, but we brought them in, and because we wanted to learn more about what they had done, and we did like a nice check presentation with what they donated. And now, like next year, they said, they usually choose a different organization every year, but they were really happy and they want to donate to us again next year. So, now we're working with them to see how we can make the event bigger. So it's a lot of community-based events like that. And I guess that really kind of touches upon what our organization is. Like, it's things in the community. We want to get people involved. Like, the only way you can talk about mental health in the community is when people are doing things in the community and people can see it. There's only so much you can say, on the radio or on TV, but when you actually, you're walking down your hallway and you see someone at a booth supporting mental health and you can go learn about it, there's all those little things. So people do a lot of fundraisers on behalf of us, and it's really great to see, and it's actually been very eye-opening for me personally. I work closely with our fundraising department, and just to see what these people do and why they're doing it and the story behind it, it's very impactful.
Okay. What is volunteering at CMHA? What is volunteering like there?
So again, our biggest fundraising event is Ride Don't Hide, so we get a bunch of volunteers.
And when is that again, sorry?
This year it's on June 23rd.
Okay.
So you can actually be a virtual rider, so you can, if you're, don't feel that you're athletic and can do the
That's
bike
me.
ride.
That is me.
You can do it online and still raise money that way, but they also offer a walk, so if you don't want a bike, you can also do the walk.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have volunteers come out to that event, and they help us with booths and literally making sure everyone's riding down the right path and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of our volunteers actually are service users. For those who don't we call our service users are our clients, but they prefer the term service user because client is more psychiatric hospital term. So we actually use the term service user. And a lot of our volunteers are people who received support from our programs and now want to get involved with our agency. So, even this weekend we have a fair, and someone who used to receive services from us is volunteering at the booth for us. So we get a lot of people who receive support and now want to get involved with the organization. I'm not too sure, the other kind of volunteer opportunities because every program has different events and all those kind of things. But, it really is a meaningful experience. First off, you're educating yourself. And I think that's a big thing. Volunteering is more than giving back. It's you want it to actually benefit yourself. So to learn more about mental health and the ways you can support mental health, I think is very great. So I'd highly recommend getting involved in any way you can.
Don't worry, we'll talk after the
All right.
podcast before you head out.
All right.
I think it's time Monica starts volunteering again. I haven't volunteered since last year. It's been a while. So
more people need to volunteer. There's just
I think I need to start doing a little
for sure.
more for my community.
Yeah, it's great.
So, what is the overall mission for your organization?
So it's kind of like a 3-piece mission.
Okay.
The first piece is to develop and provide community-based supports, and basically those supports help people who are struggling with their mental health and to improve their quality of life in accordance to their defined needs. So that's kind of the first piece of it. The second piece of it is to provide education and information to increase the knowledge and understanding of mental health and mental health services in the community. And then the third piece of it is to advocate for public policies that lead to a better mental health system to improve the quality of life for people living with mental health issues, their families, and our community.
Okay. I have one. This might be a tough one for you.
Yeah.
It's an access question.
It's what?
An access question.
Okay.
We did a podcast a couple weeks ago, a month ago, thereabouts, on access and how challenging it is to access some of these services for the average, regular, everyday Joe. So, me being the average, everyday Joe, if I were to call the helpline right now, what would my wait time be? What would that process? I know you talked a little bit about intake, but what would that process look like? Does it help that there's so many of the organizations around, or
it does help that, you know, there are a lot of mental health organizations in the community, but I can honestly say there's definitely not enough because we have, you know, waiting lists for different programs. It's going to be different for every program and depending on the services that they need. There's different criteria for every referral. So after, you know, that process, it's, you know, does the program have room? What's the waiting list like? And all that kind of stuff. But again, what I love about our organization is that if we don't have the space, they'll refer to a different mental health organization that, you know, hopefully does have the capacity to take them in. But from what I've heard, just because I'm not a frontline worker, so I don't necessarily work with individuals who are struggling with their mental health on a daily basis. But from what I've heard, like it takes months for people to get into a specific program. Like I even know for me that the first time, I had to go see a psychiatrist, it was like a 4-month waiting list. Like, granted, I got lucky and there was a cancellation and I was on the list and I got right in. But otherwise, people are waiting for these services. And mental health is, when you're struggling with your mental health, it's not something you can wait for. Like, it is an illness. And I don't like to use the word illness because it just, you don't want to say, that someone's ill. But at the end of the day, it needs to be treated like a physical illness. Like if you had cancer and you go to our hospital, you're getting treated right away. You're getting, the treatment, you're getting the medication, and you're getting the support that you need, because if you don't cure it on time, like, you will unfortunately pass away. And people don't realize that's the exact same thing with mental illness. Like, they think like, oh, you're just in a hard phase right now, but it does get worse. And if it doesn't get worse, it may stay the same, but you need to access those services. You need to have those supports in place before it gets to a point where it gets worse, and no one really realizes that. So I think Toronto, let alone the world, has a lot of work to do in terms of making it accessible. And people, when they call for the support, they should be getting the support like on that phone call and coming right into any service. So we do try our best, and again, we have a great information and decision support team that really tries to connect people to the resources they can receive. And but I think it's more based on the government and the funding that they're giving for mental health care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you guys are looking at me. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No problem. My turn. Actually, one thing that I actually found, you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but when you talked about your parents and just programs for people that are trying to support someone with a mental, what is it? Illness, issue, condition? What's the word?
It's whatever you're comfortable saying.
Okay. What programs are available? Can you touch on that again? Just what programs are available for the people that are trying to support someone who's going through a mental health condition?
So some of our programs do help, if they have a loved one experiencing a mental health issue, they will help those people. But we have like one main program. It's called our Family Outreach and Response Program. And basically that program helps people who are caring for a loved one who are sick. The person struggling does have to be 16 or over and struggling with their mental health. There's no diagnosis required, but it's basically the services are to help that friend or family member be supported to better help the person who is struggling. Okay. So I think it's one of my favorite programs at the agency. I think more when you think someone who's struggling with their mental health, you think like, okay, like let's get all the supports in to help that person. But friends and family of that person are also affected. Have you ever like been in a room at a party and like someone's just like really down and like it affects your mood? Like it does. Yeah. Like it just like it. Yeah. You see someone having a miserable time and you came in a good mood and you're ready to have a good time, and that one person's just like around you and it's just lowering your mood. But someone who's struggling, to see them upset every day and down and not in a good space, like it brings you down as well, and it could affect your mental health. So to put the supports in to help the person caring for their loved one, I think is equally as important as helping the person who is struggling, because you can't be helped unless you have a good support system, and to have a good support system they need to know how to support you. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite programs, because I think it's something I wish I knew about when I was struggling with my own mental health.
Yeah, I think that'd be a very useful program.
I wish my parents had it.
I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to.
I wish my parents had it, because they couldn't get it, and I come from like this my highly Christian household. Okay. At least on my mom's side. Hi, Mom. And they couldn't, like, he did like a ton of research, right? Like that was his solution. Research everything. And then stare at me until we figure out which symptoms she's exhibiting at what moment. And my mom was like, pray. So there was no resource.
Exactly.
I think she had gone to a group once. I don't think she's a fan of group situations, but she'd gone to a support group one time because she couldn't take it anymore. You know, with bipolar, it's
Ups and downs.
Serious ups and downs. So, you know, she went to like one support group that I can remember, but I didn't even get it at the time. You know how you were saying it's like you're going through it and it feels normal?
Yep.
Like I didn't get it either.
Yep.
That I'm
100%.
in the mental health world now.
Yep.
Like this is my universe. This is where my house is. You know, so it's crazy.
It is. It is.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, definitely. People need to have the right supports. It's so crucial.
Now they're good. Now they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
I live here and they live there.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Good. No, I know.
I live here
Sometimes
and they live there.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. Like I'm sure, like you know, you don't want your child or whoever it may be struggling with their mental health. Like, so you try to almost say, like, you know, give a different excuse. Like, even if you're not a teenager, like, oh, you're just not liking your job right now, or like, oh, the weather's, you know, dull outside and it's lowering your mood. Like, everyone tries to come up with all these excuses, and at the end of the day, just like, you know, if anyone's going to listen to this, just like sit back and listen to what they're saying, because at the end of the day, like, you know, you're going to help them get to a better place, and you need to be on their side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to know more about Ride Don't Hide. I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
So it's bicycles?
Biking, yeah. So I think there's 4 different cycling routes. I think it goes. I think it's just like a 5-kilometer run, then 10-kilometer, then 20, and then 25. I think
it's like the marathon type.
Yeah,
distances?
the marathon. Yeah, something like that. But we're doing it. Doing it in Caledon Hills this year. So I know the ride and the routes have to change a bit. I'm not too sure where we had done it prior, so this is new for us as well. We're doing it with another CMHA branch. We're doing it with Peel. So we're doing it together. So no, it's a great day, and people bike for mental health. They raise funds. So some people go on teams, some people do it individually, but online you can raise funds, and you know, you tell people that you're going to be riding for mental health, and it's just a fun day. Like it's just, and I think when people finish the ride, they feel very accomplished. Like it's you know, you see in the pictures a lot of people sweaty, but a lot of people smiling. So and there's hundreds and hundreds of people there. Hopefully it doesn't rain, but
even if it
does, I think people still bike in the rain. I think it's just like a little bit of a safety issue. But other than that, you know, people, yeah, it's just like a challenge. You know, like back in it wasn't specifically for our organization, but for United Way, which is one of the organizations that funds us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're one of our funders. They do the CN Tower climb, and
which was last week.
No, there was a CN Tower climb last week, but the United Way one was in November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did it, and I am not a very athletic person, and I was like, oh yeah, I can climb like, you know, 140 flights of stairs, and by like the 5th flight of stairs, like my thighs were killing me, and I was like, oh my god, there's 135 more to go.
Did you make it?
I made it.
Oh my gosh.
I made it. But you know what, I look back at the picture, and because they take it right when you come right out, I look back at the picture, I am so sweaty, but I had the biggest smile on my face. I don't think you realize it, but you're like, you know, like I raised money for United Way, but like, I don't know why your first instinct is to smile after, you know, you just climb the CN Tower, but that's your instinct because you're just like, I accomplished it. Like it feels good. Like, but that's good for your mental health too. Like you've accomplished a goal.
Completing a task.
Yeah, completing a task. Like so that's what I love about like Ride Don't Hide too, because you know, you're getting to an end goal and you get to accomplish something, and so it's something personal for yourself as well, not just raising mental health awareness and money for the community. So that's what I really like about it, because it really challenges people, and obviously being outside and in the community and fresh air and all that kind of stuff, it really does lift your mood.
Speaking of outside and mood, this is just a random question for both of you. What kind of role does being outside in nature and being active play in mental health?
It lifts my mood entirely, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
It completely lifts my mood, especially when the seasons are changing. Like just that, when spring is starting and it finally goes from like 0 degrees to like 15 degrees and just like smells like spring outside, you just want to be outside. And it just, I don't know, at least for me, I don't know about you, Anika.
Oh, honestly, I walked here today.
Yeah, exactly.
I walked here today.
Wow,
and
okay.
I picked up some cheesecakes on the way.
Great. Yeah, no complaints.
I walked here today. I said to myself, because we had a conversation about sleep habits earlier. I need to like be out in nature. I used to be in nature quite a bit when I lived in the Durham region. There's a lot of trees, forests, trails, I used to jog, but living in the city, I find I don't do that as much.
Yeah.
But I have found a good route. So tomorrow morning, we're going to be on that route.
It's supposed to be nice tomorrow. Yeah.
It's supposed to be 14. My cap off is 15, actually. So I've been saying to myself, once it hits 15 degrees, that's when the action Jackson's going to happen. That's when the jogging, the jog-walking,
Yeah.
interval jogging. It's called jawalking. I haven't patent pending. All that's going to start at 15 degrees, but it's 14 tomorrow. So
I think it's 15 the day after. Just letting you know.
It's on its way. It's on its way. I found a nature path, though. I'm very excited about it.
I mean, there's all these studies. I don't work frontline, but there is all these studies that when it's warm outside, because it gets you to go out and go on walks and exercise. Like, it pushes you to do things that are good for your mental health. To be honest, I never really believed in that. I was like, how is like the weather going to really change my mood? But I think it just really pushes you to go out, and just that means you're interacting with people. That means you're exercising and you're doing things that are physically good for your health. And when you're physically healthy, you also are mentally healthy. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to it getting warmer.
to the better weather. Oh gosh. But anyways,
so Rachel, since you seem very happy and upbeat right now, so what things are you doing to, I guess, make yourself feel happy and be happy, like outside of your career?
So I know I just said I'm not athletic, but I just started working out. So I'm getting athletic.
Same boat.
But like, no, it actually, I've tried working out for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and like I'd be good for like 3 weeks, and then for 6 months I wouldn't work out, and I hated it. And I really, all like my doctors would be like, working out is really good for you. It's really good for your mental health. Like even just taking a walk, and I'd go for a walk and I was bored and whatever. And I don't know, like everyone has their New Year's resolutions, but like starting January 1st, I was like, I'm going to start working out. And I started working out 3 times a week, and it's actually completely changed my mood. It really helps, but it never helped me before. And the reason it helps is just like you're in a different headspace. Like, when you're exercising, you're focused on doing an exercise, right? Versus focusing on like, all the stuff you have to do at work tomorrow, all the errands you have to run and all that kind of stuff. But I do think it's like, you really have to push yourself to get into that mindset, and it's not easy. And I used to read all these posts online, and it was like, well, I, didn't work out for my entire life, but now I work out 6 days a week. And I'm like, well, how does that happen? Like, how do you get to that point?
I just canceled my gym membership.
Why would you want to?
I did.
Yeah, it's like, why do you? But you know what? It challenges yourself, because like to see, that, you were lifting 5 pounds at the beginning, and now like 12 pounds in a certain exercise. Like you're accomplishing something, and it's cool to do that. So that's one of the things I do. And the other thing I do is I spend a lot of time with my family. I love my family. Before, my parents will attest to this, I just lived in my room. And even when I was in a good place, they would always joke like, oh, well, like she's always in her room. And I'm like, no, I'm coming downstairs now. Like I'm having dinner with you, and I'm watching TV with you, and I'm talking to you, like stuff I never really did before. And I just found that interaction really helped me. Just because I isolated myself when I was struggling. So being with my parents, and I have great friends. I have like my 4 really close friends, and like they'll come over and just like we'll sit in my bed and we'll just watch literally Netflix and chill, but like not the inappropriate version. There'll be like the actual Netflix and chill, and like and eat our favorite foods and whatever. Like I just like think having positive relationships around me has really helped me. And look, I'm not the most social person in the entire world. Like I don't, if you said let's go to a crazy bar on Saturday night, or like let's order in sushi and watch something on Netflix, I'll choose sushi and Netflix. So like I think like also the biggest thing I do now is I put myself first. When I used to like even working in retail, I pride myself, I never took I never called in once sick ever. I went for 4 years, never once. Every time I was sick, I went in. Like, and even when I was really struggling, like my worst days, like I went in, but because keeping busy at the time to me was good. But like now I've learned, you know, I work at CMHA. They really promote a work-life balance. And I remember one day I went in, I like was sick. I really wasn't feeling well. And, you know, my manager came in and he goes, well, why are you here? And I just said, I don't know, I have to work. And he literally closed my laptop and took my laptop and said, go home. And that was like, I think like, you know, having people around you who support you and like support that, you know, you need to put yourself first to care for your mental health. I think that helps you because you don't, sometimes people look at it as like, oh, you're skipping work because you don't feel well. Oh, like you're lazy and whatever. Like they put all these, you know, thoughts. Assumptions. Yeah. And it's just like, no, it's like I'm just having a bad day and like me not working is going to help me today. So, you know, when, you know, I used to go out with my friends and when I really knew it would make me worse going out and I wouldn't feel good going out, I'd still go. And now I say like, look, I'm just like not having a great day. You guys go out. I'll feel better if I stay in. Even if, you know, I have some people who just don't understand it. They're like, why not? If you come out, you'll feel better. You'll be out and all that stuff. But it's like, I know my body and I know what I'm feeling, and I know that staying in and watching a movie is going to be better for me today. So I've, you know, put myself first, and I don't really care if people are supportive or not of that. It's just like that's something I never did before. It was like I always did everything on account for others. It was just, you know, my parents wanted me to go to a family event. I went to the family event even though I really didn't feel good and I had a miserable time. It lowered my mood. It completely depleted me. And I think that you need to put yourself first. It's okay to say no. If you don't want to do something, it's okay to not go out with your friends if staying in will make you feel better. Like, I would say that's mainly like, I think that's the biggest change in attitude, at least. Okay. And I, you know, I speak my mind now. Like before, I just kind of like I don't know. I like making other people happy, and I don't want to upset anyone else or put a burden on anybody else. And the most I can relate that to is like when I worked in retail at my job. Like, you know, I have a great relationship with my previous boss, but like just the management there, it was, you know, if someone called in sick, like their first response was like they need a doctor's note or they're not telling the truth or whatever it is. And I guess like I never wanted to be in that position where I actually called in sick and they turned around and were like, well, now we don't have, you know, I was a supervisor, so like now we don't have a supervisor to close the store. Now I have to, and that affects them. But like, you know, I was putting them first and not myself first. And so now I love that. That's the one thing I really try to remember is just to put myself first. And you know, you can't be afraid. You can't, you know, if someone gets upset over it, like you're not living for somebody else. Like you're living your own life. And I think everyone tries to make other people happy and they forget to make themselves happy. And so I think that's really important to remember. Sorry, that was a little bit of a lengthy response, but
that was a great response.
Yeah.
That was a great response.
I enjoy when anyone says they have to put themselves first, because
Yeah.
I had to learn that myself. So.
Yeah. No, it is a learning curve for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always put myself first.
You're a bit narcissistic.
I'm a bit narcissistic. We talked about that in another episode.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll hear it when you listen.
Oh, yeah.
No pressure.
Oh, I will definitely be listening.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Okay, so Rachel, this wild experience that you've had, what's the biggest lesson you've taken out of, number one, having a mental health issue, and number two, working for a mental health organization?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've taken from it is that it's normal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. I used to lie all the time. Like if, you know, I didn't go out one night with my friends, I'd be like, oh yeah, I have a cousin coming in from out of town for dinner. I can't come.
Wow, that's elaborate.
Yeah. No, because like I, you know when you have people who are like, you know, you can tell when they're lying. Like I felt like I had to make like real good lies. Because I didn't want them to be like, oh, she's lying. But like, no, like I'd say like, you know, I do have a cousin that lives out of town, so I wasn't, just she didn't come in that weekend. No, so I really just think like you have to be honest. Like if you're not having a good day, like don't be afraid to say, you know, I'm not having a good day today. Instead of making up all these lies to hide what you're going through. And then from working in a mental health organization, like, I think the one thing I've really learned is that, you know, this is a serious issue for many people. And right now, a lot of people throw around words like I'm depressed or I'm anxious. And, you know, but it's an illness. And, you know, you don't go around saying like, oh, I have cancer today. Like, you don't go around saying that. And those are people who are struggling as well. Like, and I think like seeing people firsthand struggling, and realizing, you know, all their struggles and what they've had to go through to even just start getting the support that they need. I would just say be careful with how you use that kind of language, because, you know, these are people's lives and this is what people really experience and really go through, and it's hard. It's not, you know, it's not easy. So I would just say be mindful of how you treat others. I think that's something I've really learned. Like, you never know what someone's gone through, whether it's mental health or not. You know, I remember this one girl, she came in and she said, you know, I used to be homeless, and I looked at her and she looked, you know, she was wearing, you know, really high-end clothes, and she was super sweet. She definitely did not look homeless. She was well kept, all this kind of stuff. And she goes, now I'm on my feet, but, you know, for 3 years I was on the streets and homeless. And you wouldn't look at her and think that whatsoever. Even her telling me, I was kind of like, really? Like, you know, so I think you just need to be mindful that, you know, everyone is struggling with their own things. And when it's mental health related, you know, just be there to support them, because from firsthand what I've hearing people's stories, I just think it's really important, again, just to be mindful of the language that you're using. You know, don't overuse it, and just be mindful of what people are going through.
Perfect. Well, Rachel, thank you so much
Thank you for
being
having
on
me.
the podcast.
This is great. I appreciate it.
Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
My parents are going to kill me if I don't give a shout out to them, because I probably didn't say the greatest things. But Mom and Dad, I really do love you. No, and actually thank you to CMHA for like giving me this experience. I just think it's I'm learning a lot, and I think the organization does great work, and I wish I knew about the kind of services and programs they offered when I was dealing with my own mental health struggles. Like, I wish I knew about all these kinds of workshops and programs and all that kind of stuff that they offer, because I really do think it would have helped me earlier on, and I really love that it's community-based. So thank you to CMHA for doing what they're doing.
All right. Well, if you guys would like to say hi to Rachel, or just tell her how much you appreciate her telling her story today and talking about CMHA, or you want to connect to some services, how could they connect to some services for CMHA?
Yeah.
Where would they go to direct them?
Yeah, so you can go on our website. If you go under Contact Us, it has our main line there. You can call our main line, and then they'll direct you to information and decision support for our services.
Perfect. So, JR, tell them how they can reach us.
Yeah, definitely. You can reach us at dysh, dysh, at daintydish.com. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts,
Give us a 5.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you're listening to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, or any other platform, thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. Give us a like, subscribe, give us some feedback. Onika definitely responds to the feedback.
I do.
I don't just pass it along. I just pass it along. But Rachel, thank you so much for being
having
here.
me. I appreciate it.
Truly
You guys
appreciate
are
you being
great.
here. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your job with us.
Thank you.
And that is it for me.
All right. Well, that has been the dish of the day. I hope y'all have yourselves a very, very, very happy hump day.